there was a question on what would happen when my metrics go bad. Before that, I want to ask you, what do you think that, see, when you start measuring metrics, right, you will start getting graphs like these. Oh, my customer users were less. Wow, they are increasing. At this time, you're thinking I will ask for my promotion from my manager. And then suddenly there is a dip and dip. And at this time, you will be like, my heart is sinking. Will I get fired or not fired? And then suddenly you will realize, oh, finally there's some stabilization. Then again, it starts increasing. And that's when your manager will come to you and say, Bhaiya, chal kya raha hai? What are you doing? How was there a growth? And then there is a steep decline and then there's stabilization and then there is growth. What is happening? Whatever emotions I told you are emotions that I went through. When I was here, my number was around 2.1 million users. And I felt, bhaiya, promotion pakki, within 1.5 months, I reached 2.1 million users. And after that, there was a steep decline of nearly 400,000 users going away. And this is the stage when I felt I'm going to lose my job because I was just unable to control the fall. Being a product manager, I said, oh, I told you, my engineering manager, we have to invest in this feature and you didn't do it, and that's why the fall is happening. All rubbish. Can you tell me what is happening here? I can also give you a hint. 99% of the products or features that you will launch will see this. Will see this graph. I don't want you guys to feel that you should get a promotion and then feel that you will get fired in a span of 1 week. That's why I'm sharing this graph with you so that you can understand what's happening here. I guarantee you, if you built a product from scratch, you would have seen this graph.
Probably the initial new features be included in an app that created the buzz, and that's why.
Yes, Anand, you're absolutely right. This is called a camel hump. There is a term for it. I learned it the hard way after realizing that bhaiya kya chal raha hai. See, because when you release a feature, camel hump, nothing matters. You're absolutely right. What happens is there will be a sudden outpour of features, outpour of users or outpour of usage for your product. They will be like, oh, let's go use it. Let's go use it. And then there has to be a decline. This will happen in two cases. In one case, when you've just released a feature, or in the second case, when you've just had an advertising campaign. A lot of people are trying to try on your product, but these are not the guys who are the steady state of your product. These are the guys who are steady state for your product. A lot of these are early adopters. A lot of these could be dedicated users. A lot of these could be active users. You don't know, because this is just a steep incline that will happen initially when you launch a product or a feature, and it will decline. And you will have to go figure out when to arrest that decline. Okay. As a PM, at least in my experience, and I could be wrong here, I found it very difficult to ascertain this decline, and I had no idea. See, because when you are in this stage, right, this could last for weeks, it could last for months. Typically, definitely not for more than months. But for me, it lasted for a couple of weeks. Those couple of weeks, I just couldn't understand what's happening, and it's too less a time to react, to do anything meaningful. What I would suggest is brace yourself for a graph like this. What you can do upfront is do very smart hypothesis validation. I'll give you an example. Let's say you are a product manager for google.com and you are launching something new called image search. Now, you can actually predict how many users will be using image search when you launch it. How will you predict? By looking at the current web usage patterns. How many people actually searched for the term Jawaharlal Nehru image, or how many users search for Jawaharlal Nehru in the same session metric. They clicked on Jawaharlal Nehru. In the same session, they clicked on Jawaharlal Nehru's image. The moment we are able to figure this out, you know that could be a potential customer for image. Out of 100 million searches that happened on google.com, 10 million searches happened for image search. Therefore, you know that this will be 10 million, right? Conservatively, you know this higher funnel, the top of the funnel or the breadth of my product is 100 million. So you know your number, your stabilization will be happening between 10 and 100 million. Sure, it will go all the way to 12 million on day one. That's okay. That's okay. But find solace in the number 10 million. Okay. This is how you can almost predict metric. Rather, I would say when you build a feature or a product, in your product specs, you should actually write that I expect this feature to be used by N or Y or X number of customers. I expect my APIs to be used these many million times. Now imagine having that kind of an index created in your mind, and now you go about building your product. You know that stabilization will happen in 10 million so that you are not running helter-skelter like me trying to figure out chal kya raha hai. Does that make sense? What is happening here? By the way, all these graphs are what I have observed in my real life. There would be more graphs, but these are graphs that I observed and I was like, chal kya raha hai yaar?
Gradual likeliness.
Gradual likeliness. Okay, good. Anand, any other takers?
Early adopters, we are going to a different segment actually.
Okay, good. Yes, could be. We're going to a different segment. Okay. See, what I'm showing you are graphs that you will see for every single product. Okay. This part, right? This portion that I showed you is if I were to zoom in, this part would look something like this. Okay. Now this is not zoomed in, so therefore you're seeing like this. This graph is that of any product. This is where you launched. This is where you launch feature number 1. This is where you launch feature number 2. This is where you launch feature number 3. You would also see, of course, I have um, uh, um, deliberately made this graph in a way that you see the growth is reducing. As a PM, your responsibility is to see my feature number 1 came in November. Can my feature number 2 that comes in December be like this? Can my feature number 3 that comes in January be like this? Eventually, it will slow down because that's what the S curve says, that you will slow, you will grow, and after that you will decline. So this entire curve is that of this phase. It's not a straight line. It will actually help grow like this for you. It'll grow slowly, slowly, slowly. With every feature investment, with every, whoever said that maybe there is another campaign that you ran and therefore you got a sudden spurt. With every feature release, you will see some growth. If as a PM, you can find really big problems of your customers, your feature growth may not look like this, it may look like this. But the moment you see your graph becoming like this, you know something is ought to happen because decline of the product is about to begin. And it happens when you build a product, decline will happen. The growth curves have to reduce. Facebook's growth 10 years back is not Facebook's growth today. And therefore you need to diversify. You need to figure out what could be the next strategy for you. So incremental feature adoption will actually look like this. There could be a moment when, oh, you shipped something incremental, you shipped incremental, and then you shipped something which is so important for customers that the growth happened like this. But that growth will also stagnate, and then maybe you will start doing this. But eventually, like just like this is like the S curve of a feature. Everything is an S curve. And then if you superimpose, there will be an S curve of your product. But this happens in almost all products. If you check your, depending upon your feature release, etc., you will see that there is an S curve happening with every release. It could be 1 month, it could be 6 months, it could be 1 year in different products cases. But this will happen. So don't worry. If you start seeing, oh, there's a sudden increase and there's a relaxation, increase, relaxation. This is a typical uh, graph of a viral product like a WhatsApp. I have not experienced it. I have never built a product which had the virality around it. Therefore, I just said, भैया WhatsApp है, उसका graph ऐसा होगा. I have never seen one. Can you tell me what is happening here?
Convenience and then mass adoption. For example, WhatsApp initially just had this messaging app and then they included like video call and normal calls. So then it was like a mass adoption kind of a thing.
Anand, that would be covered here. There was a convenience feature which had a slow adoption, growth went down, and then there was a mass adoption. Like their S curve would look like this. This is something different. Looks like a dinosaur's back. These are my graphs. Huh? What you are seeing are my graphs. Okay, let me explain. I'm not sure whether you guys saw. There is performance here. No more user or usage. See, when you're building a product, when especially this is the startup phase, right? All of these are those the S curve that I showed earlier, right? Like different avatars of the S curve. This is when you are beginning. You are shipping your first 10 features. You're doing a proof of concept with one of the customers, etc., etc. Performance is the last thing you should worry about at this stage. Performance is a debt that you should be happy to take later on. So what has happened here is in the initial stages, performance is there. It's not like so bad that you will just not be able to operate the product. But yeah, performance is not something that you worry about at this stage. You really want to get your product in the hands of the users so that they can give you the qualitative feedback, the NPS, and tell you that whether you are doing good, not or not good, whether you're solving the problem or not solving the problem. And then after a few months, you will do an investment into performance. So you started with some debt, you did some initial investment. What will happen is again, you will fall into that cycle of keeping investing more in features because this is your feature curve at this stage. You keep investing and your performance start taking dip. Your performance will go down of the product and then you will do another performance investment. It will go up. Most of the features that I've invested in or most of the features that I've built, performance is that thing that has to be taken care of, but it comes as a debt, as a afterthought. Okay, so this will happen. Performance is one of those curves which is very hard to predict because it will have a sinusoidal wave. You invest in more features, you take the debt, performance goes down, then you invest in performance, it goes up, and then it goes down, and so on and so forth. Right. Last but not the least, what is happening here? If you see, this is also a camel hump. But the camel hump is slightly different. The way this camel hump is operating here is that the decline or the steepness of the camel hump is higher. Okay, I'll not let you think too hard. Mostly this happens in marketing events. When you go out for marketing, you will see marketing is selling, selling, selling. Marketing event started, sell, sell, sell happened, and then there is a steep decline after the marketing event. This kind of curve will help you understand the feasibility of marketing for your product. So I'll tell you how it worked out for me. When we invested in a product, we did a marketing event. Now, if you see very carefully, had we not done we spent, let's say, 1 crore rupees on marketing. Once we did that, we saw a steep increase. Yay, marketing team stays for 1 year. And then there was a decline. If you see, had I not invested in marketing, I was in any case reaching that growth. I would have done exactly what I was doing even without the marketing investment. Because there are some products that need marketing, there are some products that don't need marketing. And that's where you have to apply your thoughts. Do you really need to go to a road show and do a 10 lakh rupees worth of investment? Or can you do other means of frugal marketing or whatever the case may be? In which case, if you look at my cost chart for that product here, my cost chart would look like this. There was a low cost and then there was a steep increase in cost and it remained. And then there was a steep increase in cost and it remained. There was a steep increase in cost. I can guarantee you, I could have let my cost curve remain like this and still achieve this much growth. Now I cut down on my margins because of the kind of investments I make. So for those who are CEOs, CTOs, CMOs of your of the product that you're operating in, keep an eye. You have to measure the efficacy of marketing on your whatever metric that you are measuring. Is marketing really helping you grow? And that growth could be whatever growth means to you, right? It could be new customer, new revenue, more customer acquisition, whatever the case may be. Keep an eye on that. A lot of people blindly feel I have got investment, therefore I need to grow a team, therefore I will invest in sales and marketing, and therefore I hope growth happens. You will see growth happen. You will feel growth is happening. But then you need to measure your metrics the right way to take the right calls. I hope that makes sense. That's why I went beyond products and I added some bit of marketing, etc. One very important thing, what is happening here? I got my S curve down. So this was the S curve. So there's a lot happening here. Let me talk through it. The blue line that you see is my classic S curve of a product. Classic S curve of a product. There is product development, introduction, growth, maturity, decline with time. These are the number of visitors. You can replace visitors with usage, etc. My question to you is, what is happening with this orange line? What is that orange line?
A
Any
different one,
thoughts?
a different version of the same product.
No. Good attempt. Why would my visitors go decline to negative numbers? Okay. See, the reason I'm showing you these graphs is because when this happens with you, you are able to correlate, or you know upfront that this is going to happen with me. When I say something, you will feel, it's obvious. Hai. Number 2 line is actually your money, your profit, your cash flows. Initial stages, you will see a decline no matter what. You're pulling in a lot of money. And then eventually you'll start seeing growth. What matters to you is, to what extent do you take this growth up? Because eventually it will decline. It has to decline. Your products are not, unless and until you find a magic mantra of this, what I showed you here, right? This. If there is a magic mantra which helps you keep growing the product like this, your revenue, your profit, etc. will keep growing steadily. Eventually it will decline. Now that eventual decline could be few years, could be decades, may not be your lifetime, could be your kid's lifetime, whatever the case may be. But decline ought to happen, right? The question is, when does the decline happen is something that you control. You control the slope of this profit slash cash flow slash revenue. This is where the money matters. So the next time when you start seeing products where, now the reason why this is important is, if this curve keeps going down and you are seeing that there is, I don't see sight of this going up, you need to reflect on your product strategy, your marketing strategy, your growth strategy, your customer acquisition cost, whatever the case may be. Eventually, this guy needs to go up. There are several startups I don't need to name, but there are startups where this happened. But this guy is not able to find the day of light. This guy keeps going down only. And these are the startups that will end up burning your wallets when you invest in their IPOs. So when you are investing also, see what is happening with the orange line. When you are building, you are accountable for that orange line. Make that orange line go up at certain stages and make sure it keeps going up. Otherwise, you are burning money, which I do every Diwali. Okay. So that's why this is also important for you to understand that how is money playing. A lot of us will come back and say, I'm not in it for money. Does not work that way. Every product, every startup that you've built is in it for money. If you're not thinking money, you should leave your product, for the simple reason that you are not only accountable for yourself, but for your team as well. If you have a team, you have a growing, thriving team, you have to worry about money. Okay. So even if you're listening from people, some of you may be investors, and if there are some very emphatic startups who have figured out this blue line, but have not figured out the orange line, then you know there is a recipe of disaster, because a good CEO, good CIO should also be thinking of the orange line, should be thinking cash flow, should be thinking profit, money. And that money, profit, etc. that I'm talking about is not just the TAM, the SAM, the SOM. For those who are unaware of these terms, I took a class long time back on what is the total addressable market, what is the surfaceable market, what is my market that I can acquire. It goes beyond that. It goes to green. How much money are you actually making, or how much money do you have the potential to make? People should be very clear about it, right? It cannot be a percentage of the population. It doesn't work that way.